Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to He's on My Bench, the Fantasy Premier League podcast, YouTube series, Twitter rants, whatever you want to call it. We're just three lovers of fantasy football that are going to give you tips, tricks, hints, game week updates, transfers, tiers, you name it. It's all here. My name's Rezo. You'll know me from Wheel It Up, and then my own little thing. Tom, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Tom. I've been a lover of this game for a long time. I've been pretty poor at it for the start of my career, but I'd say I've been playing this for about 10 years, but I've really blossomed with a lot of competition in our little mini group. Last year I finished at 33k, so I was pretty happy with that. Finished 22k about 3 years ago, so it's about getting consistently good. My target for this year is to try and get in the top 50k again, and then we'll see how high we can go.
Yeah, just to clarify, that's out of 6, 7 million people. So all of us do quite
So
well. We do know what we're talking about.
that's the goal, right? Like 7 million people, you want to get in the top 70k. That's the top 1%. You want to be the top 1%, and that's what we're going for.
Every time. Umar, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. So the reason my name's Umar, they call me the Tinker Man. I like to make many transfers on fantasy football, hence the nickname. Why I play fantasy football, I really like the analytics part of it. I like that you've got something to look at every weekend, and it's a great time pass, and it just keeps the blood flowing. So in terms of my history, so the highest I've come is top 6k, again out of 7 million people. So that was in 2016-17. That was my best season. Last season, I was in the top 250k, which was okay, below Tom, which is never good. But I'm
Delighted.
Tom this time. So that's me.
Yeah, true to form, we actually did. There are four of us that usually play the middle league. True to form, Umar, we did a draft and Umar's already made a change. So that tells you everything you need to know.
Within minutes, I wasn't happy.
Well, we just I hadn't even clicked off the draft page and Umar's already made a change.
Yeah, he wasn't doing bits for me already.
Yeah, there you go. Right, so today's video is going to be really, really simple. We're going to be going over the Fantasy Premier League rules and just explaining things for you because I know a lot of people jump in and both feet first and don't quite know what they're getting themselves into. So I'll get us started. Fantasy Premier League tips and tricks. Okay, so you get 100 million to spend on 15 players and you don't have to spend the full 100 million. Tom never spends the full 100 million. He thinks it carries over to the next season. He's the Arsene Wenger of this group.
You get a lot of flexibility, okay? You just keep a little bit of money in the bank. Don't feel under pressure, okay, guys? Don't feel under pressure to spend the whole 100 million. You've got a lot of flexibility. The game is a very, very dynamic in the first couple of weeks. You've got to be reactive. That's my motto.
Listen, I come from a poor family.
See Tom with a 90 million pound team.
Every year. Listen, I come from a poor family, and you know what poor people are like. As soon as you get money, you splurge. So in my team, I've got 4 superstars and then players you've never heard of that will never make the starting 11 either. So the way fantasy works is you get 15 players, 5 defenders, 5 midfielders, and 3 attackers. Okay, so those are the basic rules. You can't have more than 3 players from the same team. Okay, so you can't have Trent, Robertson, Van Dijk, and Firmino. You can only have three players. There are a few chips, and I'll let one of you boys take over and tell them about the chips.
So you get 3 chips, and you can only use triple captain. Triples your captain points. You got bench boost, where your bench will score you points. Normally, your bench will not score you points. And you got free hit. So it's all of these 3 that I've mentioned, you get them once per season. So once you use it, you have lost it. And a lot of my history where I have actually lost my chips because I've got no points from them. And then the last one, so I was talking about free hit. You get to completely change your team for 1 week only, and then you revert to your previous team, and there are no penalties, so you can completely change. So it could be to your detriment, and it could be is all on you on how you use those chips. And they're the 3 chips. The only ones that I've missed there are the wildcards. You get 2 wildcards per season, or you get 1 wildcard per season, so you almost get 2 teams. And you have to use it. I think this year it's by the 28th of December, which is at the end of week 16. I think normally it's at the end of week 18, but this year, with the way the fixtures are going, it's exactly halfway through the season, so it's the end of December. So it's almost like you've got your own January transfer window for 1 week only with your wild card. So you have to use it before the end of week 16.
Yep. You also get 1 free transfer per week. Now I need to emphasize this because Umar still doesn't understand. It's 1 free transfer. Okay. Once you make the transfer, every following transfer you get -4 points. Now, that sounds cool, but you need to think about your player has to return. Because if they just make an appearance and they get 2 points, you're -2 on that player. Right? What you can do, though, is you can save your free transfer 1 week and it rolls over onto week 2 and you get 2 free transfers that week. However, there's only 1 rollover. So you can't accrue 3-4 transfers, which... Is that what you think happens, Zuma? You just get as many transfers as you want?
I never rolls his first transfer, so...
I'll make my points back up.
Yeah, if you say so.
So value, and I'll show you boys how it's done.
So that's pretty much it for the transfers. That's how they work. And just basic things. You can't transfer a defender for a midfielder. You have to stay within your group. So defenders for defenders, midfielders for midfielders, and attackers for attackers. Umar, do you want to give them a breakdown of points? So what goes on with attackers, midfielders, defenders, and so on?
Yeah, of course. So with your defenders, so I'll start with the goalkeeper first. Actually, with your goalkeepers, nice and simple. You get 4 points for a clean sheet, and for every 3 saves you make, your goalkeeper gets a point. For your defenders, you have so they get 4 points for a clean sheet. They get 6 points for a goal. So yeah, any defender that you think is going to be a high goal scorer, definitely worth a shout. And 3 points for assists. Assists are the same for whichever player in the team gets them. Midfielders, 5 points for a goal. You also get 1 point for a clean sheet, and for strikers, it's 4 points for a goal, and again 3 points for assists. Same with midfielders.
Yeah, that clean sheet is so big for midfielders.
Yeah, exactly. It's an extra point. And one of the big things on fantasy is FPL is picking your captain right. So captain is key. So the captain gets 2 times your original points. So for example, your player gets 10 points and you have him captain, that week he will get 20. So getting the right captain can make or break your week. And it is just as important as in having your key player, a big point getter on the bench. Again, big make or break kind of thing. So captain is just as important.
Yeah, fully. Just a couple of things. If your player gets a yellow card, it's -1 point, and if they get a red card, it's -3 points. Now, if your defenders and midfielders concede 1 goal, they just lose their clean sheet bonus, and if they concede 2, it's -1 point. So for every 2 goals that they concede afterwards, it's -2 points. And also a little kick in the teeth: if your defender gets sent off, every time the team concedes afterwards, so every 2 goals, that defender still gets a minus, because it's really their fault that the team is conceding. And also something that's changed this year. Last year you had up to 60 minutes before the beginning of the game week to make changes, whereas this year it's 90 minutes before, and that's because of leaks throughout Twitter. People are on those Twitter fingers, journalists, this is played worldwide now. You've got players that are playing it themselves. So it tends to happen. Tom, do you want to tell them about the article that you were telling us about with the guy that selected the most captains?
Yeah, definitely. So I was reading an article on Reddit recently, and it was really interesting. It's about the guy who didn't win fantasy, but he has the most points from captain players over the course of last season. So someone to bear in mind, his thought process, how he achieved that. And basically he was saying, when you log into fantasy and you see the fixture list, and it'll give you that indicator like green, red, 1 to 5, I think it's called like FDR rating or FD rating of how difficult the fixture is going to be. But really that's a bit of a trap, and you need to be careful with using that. A better way of picking your captain is you need to analyze who are they playing against and how are they going to set up. Because there's no point, if you if your player is going to play against Crystal Palace, and you know Crystal Palace have a history of just parking the bus and playing very defensively, you're second guessing and thinking, do I really want to captain my attacking player against a team who's going to play defensively? And one of the things he brought up from last year is he was really happy to captain anyone against Norwich, because whether they wanted to park the bus or not, they weren't able to. So mentality-wise, whether they wanted to or they weren't, they just couldn't. So he knew that players against Norwich were going to be able to score points. So you need to have a think and say, if my player is against Burnley, if I'm against Newcastle, if I'm against Crystal Palace, these teams tend to park the bus. These teams are happy to defend. So do I want to captain against these teams? So that's something to bear in mind, something to actually watch the game and say, are they able to park the bus? Do they want to park the bus? Would I want to captain a player against this team?
Yeah, that's all fair point. I think that's it really for video number 1. Those are your basic Fantasy Premier League. It's almost like a little welcome pack. Those are the things that you need to know before you get started. Oh, last thing, the most important thing, you have to choose a punny name. Your name has to involve some form of either football pun or otherwise. I've gone for Easy Does It, or obviously Azzy, the new Crystal Palace signing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with. Make sure you follow us, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, comment, get us on Twitter. We'll be uploading our team sheets, live tweeting some of the matches because we're just that bored on weekends. And yeah, all that good stuff.